my family tried to force an arranged marriage for business. I eloped. Now, they're furious because I just sent them my wedding photo. I'm Maya, and I've been dating Liam for nearly 2 years. We met at our friend Ben's monthly game night, one of those informal get-togethers where everyone brings dollar store munchies and spends hours playing board games. My parents are traditional, not the wealthy sort of traditional with vacation houses and country club memberships, but the kind where dad works extra hours at his job and mom saves every penny at the grocery store. They've always had a family comes first attitude, which usually means whatever dad says goes. Liam and I have been keeping our relationship quiet around my family, not exactly hiding it, but not making a big issue either. He attends occasional family gatherings, delivers flowers to my mother, which she angrily places in the kitchen rather than the living room, and does his best to talk sports with my father, who usually simply grunts in response. Yesterday, I attended our customary Sunday supper. Everything appeared normal. Mom was preparing her famous pot roast, which she stretched for the entire week. Dad was watching TV, and my sister Chloe was texting on the couch. Then, I observed that there were extra places arranged at the table. Who else is coming? I inquired while assisting Mom with the salad. Oh, Mark and Evan are joining us, she replied. Mark is Dad's best friend from high school, and they work together. I scarcely know his son, Evan, other than that he is 27 and also works with them. Dinner began normally enough. Mark arrived with Evan, who was dressed in a button-up shirt still creased from the store. My mother kept offering him the nicest cuts of meat while giving me strange, meaningful glances. Chloe kept kicking me under the table while widening her eyes as if she knew something I didn't. Then, between the pot roast and Mom's box mixed brownies, my father cleared his throat. Maya, Mark and I have been talking. I immediately felt a strange sensation in my gut, like something horrible was about to happen. Evan here is ready to settle down, Mark announced, beaming like he'd won the lottery. And we thought, what better match than our two families coming together? I almost choked on my water. What? It makes sense, my father said, not looking at me. Mark and I are expanding the business, and Evan will eventually take over his father's role. You two would make a good match. I sat there, my fork frozen halfway to my mouth, as Evan stared at his plate, looking about as relaxed as I felt. The brownie in my mouth turned into sawdust. I'm dating Liam, I admitted, confirming what everyone at the table already knew. My mother waved her hand dismissively. Oh, honey, that's just a young girl's fancy. We're talking about your future here. Your mother's right, Dad added. Liam's a nice enough guy, but he's not going anywhere. Evan here has a real future in the business. I looked at Evan, who was still fixated on his brownie. He hadn't said anything the entire time. Mark was smirking as if he had just solved global hunger, and my parents were staring at me expectantly. This is insane, I stated. I'm not marrying Evan. I love Liam. My father's face got somewhat purple. This isn't about love, Maya. This is about family and the future. As I walked towards the door, I heard my father say, You have until the end of the month to end things with that boy. We're announcing the engagement at Mark's birthday party. I didn't say anything else. I simply grabbed my crossbody bag and left. Liam was already waiting in his car just around the bend. We had planned to go to Walmart after supper to get some items for his apartment. I climbed into the car, my hands shaking as I tried to buckle my seatbelt. That was yesterday. Today, my phone has been flooded with texts from my mother about being rational and thinking about the family. Chloe sent me a series of WTF texts followed by warnings that Dad is serious about this. Even my cousin Sophia called to see whether it was true. Liam and I stayed up late last night in his tiny studio apartment, discussing what to do. We had actually planned to move in together when his lease expired next month. Nothing extra, just a little two-bedroom in the same building as his friend Ben. We've been saving money and keeping it quiet. Now, I'm wondering if we should speed up those plans. I've silenced most of my family on my phone, but I can see the message count increasing. The only person I've responded to is Chloe, who has promised not to tell anyone that I'm staying at Liam's tonight. I'm not sure what to do next. I love my family, but this is insane, right? For example, the year is 2024, not 1825. Who even arranges marriages anymore, especially for something as mundane as a business deal? I need advice. Liam is supportive, but says it's up to me. I just know one thing for certain. I will not marry Evan, no matter what my father believes marriage will bring me. First update. First and foremost, I'd like to express my gratitude for the amazing response to my previous post. It's been 2 weeks since that bizarre Sunday dinner. And I'm writing this at 1 a.m. on Liam's couch, stress eating dollar store cookies and trying to figure out how everything went so swiftly. Our water heater recently broke, and the landlord isn't responding to texts, so now seems like a good opportunity to update you all while I wait for the kettle to heat water for a sink shower. The day after my last post, I waited until my folks were at work before going home to fetch some necessities. I assumed I'd be in and out, but Chloe was home, sick from her community college studies. Between stuffing clothes into my duffel bag, she told me what I'd missed. It turns out that the entire thing is far trickier than I had anticipated. The truth emerged in parts. Mark's business is struggling badly. Dad has also been anxious about money, as seen by the dripping kitchen faucet. This arranged marriage was more than just some random traditional values thing. It was about merging enterprises. They want to leverage my father's contracts to protect Mark's company from falling under. Isn't it really romantic? Things became much more problematic when I realized that my parents had already paid a non-refundable deposit for a wedding location. They had scheduled it under the pretense of Mark's birthday party, but it was clearly signed as an engagement celebration. My mother has been exhibiting the contract to everyone as proof that I cannot back out now. The location is a fancy converted barn that likely costs more than I earn in 3 months. Over the next 3 days, I received a continual stream of missed calls and emotional messages. My cousin Sophia stopped by Liam's with some winter clothes she had borrowed and mentioned that my mother has been contacting everyone in the family, weeping about how I'm wasting my life. The family gossip mill is running overtime. Apparently, Evan still lives in his parents' basement and spends most of his time playing Fortnite. What a deal I'm missing out on. Work hasn't gone any better. My manager suddenly reduced my hours after my mother called the store, weeping about her troublesome daughter. I'm now rushing to get shift swaps just to cover my rent. Liam is coping with his own troubles. His car failed inspection, and the repairs would be more expensive than the car was worth. Our living situation is hard. Liam's studio apartment was not designed for 2 people. We're constantly walking over each other, and his downstairs neighbor keeps complaining to the landlord about the extra noise. My complete skincare routine is currently stored in the bathroom sink because there is literally no other place to put it. Last night, I discovered my mascara in the kitchen cupboard next to the ramen noodles. That is the amount of organization we're dealing with here. The financial hardship is becoming real. Between my limited hours at work and unexpected charges like the many random purchases required for moving, we are both feeling the squeeze. I started selling clothes on Poshmark to save money. Liam has been picking up odd gigs on TaskRabbit, but they barely cover the necessities. We've become specialists in extending groceries. Rice and beans have become close companions. The problem reached a new low when I ran into my parents at Walmart while discount shopping. What followed was a scene straight out of a lousy drama. Tears in the cereal aisle, allegations about family devotion, and vague threats about Mark selling to a major corporation. We just got our essentials and went, but Mom noticed the generic brand products in our cart and began crying even more about how I deserve better than this life. Today's new torment was learning that my parents have reportedly been saving for my wedding since I was born. Mom shared images of the wedding fund passbook, a not-so-subtle reminder of what I'm tossing away. The guilt trip included childhood images and a screenshot of current wedding venue prices. To make matters worse, our proposed apartment fell through. The landlord decided to rent to his nephew instead. So, we are back at square one. Liam's lease expires in 2 weeks, and finding an affordable place is proving more difficult than anticipated. His friend Ben offered us his spare room temporarily, but accepting feels like giving up, especially because Ben lives in his parents' garage, and his mother still does his laundry. Liam has been extremely supportive, but I can tell he is also feeling the strain. Yesterday, I discovered him staring at ramen containers with a discouraged expression that wounded my heart slightly. The engagement of extended family members is the most problematic. My phone is constantly ringing with texts from relatives I rarely see, all experts on why I'm making a horrible mistake. Chloe keeps me up to date on things at home. Dad appears to be considering removing me from his will, which would be more concerning if there was anything to inherit. When I find myself doubting, I glance at Liam, perhaps playing Wordle on his phone or humming while washing dishes, and know I can't give in. We are not a business merger. We are people. This is our lives. Even if we're currently sharing a single bath towel because we neglected to grab mine during the Great Escape. We're taking it day by day, looking for apartments during lunch breaks, blocking new numbers as they appear, and figuring out our next move. We still have each other, even if our current date nights consist of comparing property ads over microwave ramen. Second update. Hello Reddit. Some of you may remember me from my earlier posts about my parents attempting to arrange my marriage to my father's best friend's son, Evan. A lot has happened in the last week, and I'm writing this from a $45 a night motel room, eating leftover pizza, and still wearing the $30 Amazon outfit. It wasn't the wedding I envisioned as a child, but honestly, it was perfect in its own unusual manner. The idea to elope occurred after I discovered that my parents had already begun sending out pre-engagement party invitations to the luxury farm site they had reserved. My sister Chloe sent me a photograph of the invitation. They had already decided on my future wedding name and everything. That was the last straw. Liam and I had already discussed marriage, especially since we had been living together for a few weeks. One night, while eating a bowl of microwave mac and cheese and staring out the window at our neighbor's cat, we've named her Princess, despite the fact that she's not ours. We just knew. We scheduled it for a random Tuesday, not because it was special, but because we both had the day off work and the courthouse was open. Liam's friend Ben, thankfully not my father's friend, agreed to be our witness. I purchased a modest white dress from Amazon that actually looked better in photos, and Liam wore his one excellent button-down shirt, the one without wrinkles. Everything that could have gone wrong on the morning of happened. The zipper on my dress became caught. Liam's automobile made that strange noise again and would not start. We had to take an Uber to the courthouse and divide the cost 3 ways with Ben because we were all penniless. The driver kept wondering why we were dressed up, and we simply explained we had a court appointment, which was technically correct, right? The ceremony itself lasted maybe 10 minutes. The clerk was on her lunch break as she processed our paperwork, and there was a man in the corner feverishly filling out jury service forms. Not quite romantic, but we couldn't stop smiling like idiots. Ben took photos with his phone. Most of the pictures are blurry, but there's one decent one where Liam and I are just looking at each other and laughing, because I almost dropped the $12 ring we received. We celebrated at the diner around the corner, sharing a plate of fries and a milkshake, because that was all we had left from our wedding budget. Ben insisted on paying for his own coffee, claiming it was a wedding gift to us. When the waitress found out we had recently married, she handed us a free slice of pie. This was the first bit of wedding luck we got all day. Then came the hard part, telling people. We decided to do it with a simple Instagram post, just the one good photo Ben took with a casual caption. So, we did a thing. Sophia responded first, sending a stream of heart emoticons. Then Chloe called, both laughing and weeping. She was thrilled for us, but concerned about the consequences. She was right to be. My mother saw the post while at the grocery store. I know this because she contacted me from the parking lot, sobbing so hard that the cart attendant asked if she required assistance. She kept claiming she would never be able to attend church again. How could you do this to our family? How about the venue deposit? Dad's reply came through Chloe. He reportedly tossed his phone across the room when he saw the post. Mark, his best friend, quickly drove over to their house. Surprisingly, Evan liked our Instagram picture and remarked, "Congratulations," which most likely exacerbated the situation. The extended family's reaction has been mixed. Shocked Facebook messages, angry texts, and a few quiet congrats. My cousin even included me in a TikTok about ungrateful children. Really mature. We're now staying at this motel because our apartment application is still being processed and Liam's lease expired yesterday. The room smells like old cigarettes, and the Wi-Fi frequently fails, yet it's our first home as a married couple. We've been making the most of our time, watching weird YouTube videos on Liam's phone and eating inexpensive takeout. Then, the wedding venue called. It turns out that my parents attempted to cancel the engagement party, but still lost the money. They're supposedly telling everyone that I forced them to book it, which is an interesting take on events. Money is still scarce. We're both working extra shifts when we can, and I'm selling more items on Poshmark. The apartment we applied for is not fancy. It's a ground floor 1-bedroom with an unusual layout and no dishwasher, but it would be ours. The leasing agency said they will notify us by Friday. Chloe has been our primary source of news from home. Mom seemed to have already redecorated my previous room, taking down all of my photos and everything. Dad is informing everyone at work that I am going through a phase. Mark's wife is constantly trying to set up a family gathering to fix things. The most unusual reaction came from Evan himself. He sent me a DM claiming he was relieved because he could finally tell his father about his girlfriend. They've been dating for almost a year, and she's not only a streamer, but also a single mother. Mark would certainly not approve. Liam and I are taking things day by day. Sometimes, I wake up in a panic about everything we've done. Liam occasionally makes me chuckle, like when he attempted to cook ramen in our hotel room's coffee machine. I remember why I selected this. It is not ideal, but this is ours. Third update. Sometimes, the truth arrives in the most unexpected ways. In my instance, it came from a stack of water-damaged papers I discovered while assisting Chloe in cleaning out our flooded basement following last week's storm. The basement incident occurred when Chloe asked for assistance. Mom and Dad were at a church function, and she was worried about water getting in. Liam and I drove over to help preserve whatever we could. While shifting boxes to a higher level, I discovered Dad's old filing cabinet had tipped over, spilling documents everywhere, most of which were drenched. As we went over what might be saved, I noticed something interesting. Loan papers. There are a lot of them, all with Mark's signature and my father as guarantor. The dates went back years, small loans first, then larger ones, the most recent dating from shortly before the whole marriage disaster began. Some had final notice stamps. Others had payment plans with missing check marks. It was like seeing a chronology of Mark's company gradually falling. But this is when things get crazy. Mixed up with the loan papers were printed emails between Dad and a large development company. They wanted to buy both businesses, both Dad's and Mark's, but only as a package deal. The offer was genuinely reasonable, enough to cover all of the debts, and then some. Was there a catch? They sought confirmation of consistent succession planning. Essentially, they would not buy until they were confident the businesses would remain together in the long run. That's where Evan and I stepped in. We were the ideal solution for demonstrating the businesses would continue to be controlled by families for many years. While we were still digesting this, Chloe discovered other papers. Mark had been disguising how horrible things were from everyone, including his own wife. He had mortgaged their home twice without informing her. My father had co-signed everything, probably hoping Mark would turn things around soon. Then came the real kicker, a draft contract dated shortly before the whole marriage proposal saga. Mark had already begun selling off equipment to make payments. Dad was about to lose all he had worked for, all because he trusted his best friend. I photographed everything with my phone before the water destroyed it totally, and forwarded them to Evan. He deserved to know. How did he respond? Well, that explains the rush. Apparently, his father had been pressuring him to settle down for months, even attempting to break him up with his girlfriend. The next day, Sophia came over to our apartment with housewarming ramen, as that seems to be our go-to housewarming gift now. She had more tea. Mark's wife learned about the second mortgage and moved in with her sister. Evan finally told everyone about his girlfriend and her child, then moved in with them. Mark? He's staying with his brother, presumably to give his wife some space, though she most likely changed the locks. Dad still won't speak to me directly, but he started asking Chloe strange questions about my new apartment, if I eat enough, that type of thing. Mom went from angry Facebook rants to sharing missing my daughter memes, which I suppose is an improvement. Yesterday, Mark texted me only 2 words. I'm sorry. I have not yet responded. Not sure if I will. Liam has been incredible through all of this. He doesn't say much about it, just embraces me when I need it and cracks bad jokes when I get too serious. Last night, he attempted to lighten the situation by suggesting we start our own business. But something simple, he replied. Maybe selling those little hats for cats online. We are doing okay. The apartment is slowly coming together. We discovered an actual bed frame on Facebook Marketplace yesterday. Our upstairs neighbor's child practices trumpet at 7 a.m. every day, but we're getting accustomed to it. I'm picking up extra shifts at work, and Liam has started doing food delivery on weekends. It isn't flashy, but the bills are being paid. Chloe claims Dad has been spending a lot of time in his garage lately, probably trying to decide what to do next. When the deal failed, the development company withdrew its offer. She overheard Mom telling a friend on the phone that they might have to sell their house, which they'd lived in since before I was born. Part of me feels guilty, even though I know it's not my fault. Another part is furious that they attempted to use my life to solve their business difficulties. Mostly, I'm simply tired of the whole affair. Last update. I wasn't planning on posting again, but I just had the most weird Thanksgiving experience, and I thought you'd be interested to hear how things turned out after the whole arranged marriage drama. First and foremost, Liam and I are still in our small apartment. We now have a solid bed frame, saying goodbye to the air mattress. The neighbor's son has progressed from trumpet to drums. Progress? What's the upside? We discovered that our other neighbor works at a furniture outlet, so we got a slightly damaged couch for almost nothing. It has a strange stain that resembles Danny DeVito if you squint, but it's comfortable. The biggest alteration happened roughly 2 months ago. Mom began sending strange thinking of you texts, generally late at night, when she was viewing weeping videos on Facebook. She then asked if we could meet for coffee. I agreed, mainly because I was tired of avoiding her at the grocery store. We met in the cafe where Liam and I celebrated our wedding meal. She cried into her coffee. I nervously stirred mine, and somehow, we ended up having a real chat. It turns out that Dad's business survived, barely. They needed to shrink, sell some equipment, and relocate to a smaller office. Nonetheless, they are getting by. Mark's company wasn't as fortunate. Speaking of Mark, he and his wife have formally separated. Finally, she received the house. Remember those secret mortgages? He's still living with his brother, who has apparently begun charging him rent. Evan is doing pretty well. He moved in with his girlfriend and her child, started broadcasting on Twitch, and now makes a respectable living doing so. His mother told my mom that he appears happier than he has been in years. He and Liam occasionally play games together, which is strange, but kind of wonderful. Dad took a while to come around. The breakthrough happened when our automobile broke down again. This thing is practically held together by hope and duct tape. Liam was fixing it in the apartment parking lot when Dad showed up. Chloe mentioned it to Mom, who then mentioned it to Dad. He didn't speak much, just started assisting with the car. Now, they have this strange habit of texting each other car maintenance videos. Dad still rarely speaks to me personally, but he will give Liam links to vehicle components for sale. Baby steps, I suppose. Thanksgiving was the real test. Mom had been hinting for weeks that we should visit. I was concerned, but Liam pointed out that free food is free food. We were still on a tight budget, so we went. It was awkward. So awkward. Aunt Alice continued to make sharp remarks about unconventional life choices. Uncle Bob pretended we weren't present. However, Chloe and Sophia handled the situation admirably. Mom actually hung our wedding photo on the mantle, right next to that terrible school picture of me from 7th grade, the one with the braces and butterfly clips. And what about the surprise guest? Mark's ex-wife. Apparently, she and Mom are still friends. She brought this delicious sweet potato casserole and spent the majority of dinner telling everyone about her journey of self-discovery and new pastime. Dad seemed to want to dissolve into his mashed potatoes. The real highlight? My cousin Ben, a different Ben, try to keep up, has announced his engagement. Everyone quickly began arranging this massive wedding, discussing venues, flowers, and other details. Mom caught my eye across the table and winked. Progress. Our apartment is still small, but we have made it home. The ring finally stained my finger green, but I actually enjoyed it. It fits our aesthetic. Liam's car is still making that noise, but we are saving money for a new one, slowly. Very slow. Work is work, nothing spectacular, but we are both getting by. Liam began taking online computer science courses. I'm thinking about it too, but for now, I'm just trying to pick up more shifts whenever I can. Chloe comes over frequently, typically with food from Mom. I believe she occasionally acts as Mom's spy, reporting back on whether our apartment is clean or if we are eating vegetables, but she also spreads gossip about Mark and Evan. Apparently, Evan's girlfriend's child now addresses him as Papa. Life is not perfect, but we are getting there.